Obviously in Dubai, you know the hustle. Everyone's working non-stop here. It's difficult to find time to practice
Hmm.
golf. I've seen it. I've got a few guys coming in that are traveling all the time, and they just maybe come in once every 3 weeks.
Right.
What let's say they had 30 minutes a week in order to practice and to improve on top of that. What would you tell them to do?
Just 30 minutes a week. Okay, if you're 30 minutes a week, just take your putter and a wedge.
Okay.
That's it. And go around, play little stations around the green. If you don't have a golf course to go to, come into it and come into a simulator for half an hour, because you don't have to do all the regale of getting clubs, and you can get in there, you maximize your time, you're getting data and you're gone, and you can record that data on your phone.
Yeah.
So you're getting constructive, because by the time you go to the golf course, a lot of time in your park and you change, and your 30 minutes are gone.
Yeah.
So that really would be the best way to me.
Yeah, I would always say that if you do something for a small amount of time every single day,
Yeah.
at least you don't lose the feeling.
No.
Like, let's say you've come in for a lesson on the Saturday and you've done a big grip change.
Yeah.
Just 5 minutes a day, just feeling that grip change, taking a few swings
Yeah.
with it. You're not gonna, where you leave it for 3-4 days, then it's completely alien again. You know what I mean? So I think, just spending time on what you've learned
Yeah.
and really focusing on it. Also, a controversial one, or not really controversial. I used to do it a lot when I was learning. Getting the mechanics of the swing. How important is it to slow it down when learning those drills or that movement?
Everything you learn should be done in slow motion, but you never put speed into anything until you have mastered the right technique. Speed comes last. There's a great book called The Talent Code. You should read it. And it shows it's a guy who goes away and he's looking, where does talent come from?
Yeah.
So he goes to Brazil, where all the best footballers were, first. And he noticed that everything's been taught very slowly and small drills. Then he goes to Russia, and he went into this old ex-Soviet Union place where there was a couple of tennis courts and everything was pretty drab, and we had all the kids lined up like 4 years old, and they were just going position 1, position 2. And he was going, right, what's the big deal? And then he went on to the 8-year-olds, and then he introduced the ball. And then what's the big deal? And then he went to the 12-year-olds, and they were absolutely brilliant. He says it's just progressively adding speed at the last. Same adding distance. That's why I don't like the driver again. We go back to getting the basic fundamentals, and then speed comes with momentum. Speed comes last because it's a swinging action, not a hitting action.
Yeah.
I
think it also, builds up that muscle memory a little bit quicker as well.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of I think the most famous example would be Alex Noren with his pre-shot routine.
Yeah.
And we'll touch on pre-shot routine in a little bit, but the way he does it is ultra slow motion, and what he does is he overdoes the movement as well.
Correct.
How important is that when learning a new movement in golf?
Yeah, because feel is everything.
Yeah.
You always try and put a picture with feel. Words, the body doesn't understand words. So I like to talk less and give drills to give you the feeling of what you're doing. Because if you talk to the top players on the golf course, when they're playing well, if you interviewed at the end and they won, the first thing they'll always say, I felt great today. They didn't have a list of checkpoints on the golf swing. Yet the guy who came last will give you an intricate, detailed, technical piece of advice why he didn't play well today. And that's the difference, because it's on autopilot after a while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, I think getting too technical with the game. Look, it works for some people.
Yeah.
But majority of the people, feel for me is everything. And if you can match feel with sight, going on that, how important is video analysis or mirror work?
Video analysis, video analysis is very good, because if you pull up a top player and they have general things like posture, aim, and grip are all pretty standard.
Yeah.
So that's what the whole thing is based around. Then there's individual styles, which is fine, but they all have those 3 core positions. And when you show a beginner beside, and they look at all these guys, different players, and they're all pretty much the same position as in posture and grip. then they start to understand the importance of that. Because if you're going to be a good player, you got to look like them as well.
Yeah.
And the swing evolves around that. It's more cause of effect, you know. I always work on prevention rather than cure. You know, most of the problem, I don't see people standing up with a perfect grip, aim, and posture play bad golf. Just
Yeah.
doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Doing the basics right, they always tend to hit it a
Yeah, it
little bit
speeds up
better.
your time because you don't have to go into deep space analyzing angles and etc. Some people like that. I don't.
And you see a lot of the higher handicap golfers out there really taking their time over every single shot, which also promotes slow play, which is obviously the bane of the existence on a golf course. How crucial is it to sort of get into a rhythm now? That falls back into pre-shot routine, as I was talking about.
Yeah.
If you have a solid pre-shot routine, you know, you're setting yourself up for a good shot every single time, I would say.
Exactly. The top players have a pre-shot routine.
Yeah.
If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for anybody else. It's just doing the basics really well. Like a top chef doing the basics really well. What's the difference separates a cook from a master chef? Doing the basics. Attention to detail. It doesn't have to be rocket science. But yeah, the beginner, I think there's too much information.
Yeah.
I think you need to take away a lot of it and then add when appropriate.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I mean, you see it with beginners all the time is if you know, they come in for the first lesson and everything, you've already said, okay, this is the grip, this is the setup, this is your aim. You know, that's three things and
That's
it's completely different.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
for them, they sort of get lost and despondent
Of course you do.
in the lesson itself. So I think for any beginner watching this, I think, you know, patience is key with golf. You know, first 3 months you're really going to struggle, but after that, if you push through the barrier with consistency, practice, and just really focusing on the fundamental basics, you'll get there eventually.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be a trial. People come into the game. It's meant to be an enjoyable thing, and as long as your perceptions of what you want to do and what you want to achieve are there, mostly people just want to go out and have a bit of fun with their friends at the weekend.
Yeah.
We all dream about, as we dreamt about, being world champions, but then you come to a compromise, and it's a great game, especially for children.
Yeah, no, definitely. Using the Apogee simulators that we've got here at True Golf, how has that changed your your coaching to a client using the data the club gives? I mean, you've got a great visual analysis of what the club's doing through impact and everything. Has that impacted your coaching in any way?
Yeah, well, what it does, it gives direct impact. I like the point that it's unique in the way it shows you the actual golf club,
Yeah.
not a projected image of what the club face is doing at impact, because at impact is the only position that matters in golf. There are many ways to swing a golf club. As long as you get back to impact square with the golf club, square means straight. So the face is either open, closed, or shut, and that gives you direct feedback, so you can relate to that quickly. So that's what I like. You know, most simulators do a pretty similar job, but that's where it's a little bit different, which is giving you the actual position of the golf club, which is helpful for the student because they can see it there in front of them what they actually did.
Exactly. For beginner and pro alike, I mean, a beginner coming in that knows nothing about the games, he's going to see all these numbers on the screen and think, I don't know what any of this means. Where if you can see the visual data,
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to make all the difference. Oh, okay, I'm hitting it off the heel, or if I'm hitting it off the toe.
Yeah.
Starts to give them an idea of, okay, you know, because they can't tell you where they're hitting it off the face, especially as a beginner. But if they can see it, then they can start to understand, okay, that's what a toe shot feels like.
Yeah.
That's what a heel shot feels like. So I think that's a crucial bit of information that the Apogee gives, which,
Yep.
you know, a lot of sims out there don't. So I think it's a great tool for beginners. What's the most common practice habit that you see a beginner doing that actually hurts his game in the long run?
Taking advice from their friends.
Okay. Yeah, I can agree with that.
That is absolute disaster. I mean, if you think about it, teaching and doing things are two different things. Teaching is all about communication and putting yourself in their position. And some people presume because they're good golfers, they can teach the game. And they couldn't be further away. Plus, because, and looking at YouTube, there's nothing wrong with the information. It's generic information. But if you think about it in a medical sense, if you had a pain in your arm and you Google it, you could have anything from you're dying to it's nothing. So which one are you going to take?
Yeah.
So this is the problem. Over an analysis, there's nothing better than just spend a half an hour, get yourself a golf lesson and get the basics right. The basics haven't changed in 200 years. It's still a golf club with a head, a shaft and a grip sitting on a 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed. So, and the fundamentals don't need to either.
Yeah. Because I mean, there's probably 1,000 different ways to fix a golf slice at this time.
Yes.
And if you try all 1,000, it's just going to confuse you even more. You know what I mean? So focus on one thing that you know. I mean, go to a coach. He'll tell you, okay, this is why. Because oftentimes it's a domino effect. One thing leads to another.
Totally.
You know, and I think once you point out, and that also goes back to the basics, like you said. So it's fixing the basics, and everything sort of fixes itself.
Yeah.
The body starts to move the way it should. So I like that a lot. How do you know, like, okay, obviously beginners, it's me, especially I used to go to a coach and I'd be hitting it unbelievable, 30 minutes after the lesson. And the next day I'd get there and I'd sort of forget or, lose the feeling of what he coached. How do you know if you practicing effectively or if you're just out there hitting balls aimlessly?
Because you've got to have a goal of what you're trying to do. People fall into their comfort zones. We have a comfort zone that you don't like to get out of. Yeah. So every time you teach someone, the first step to learn is confusion. If I was learning Japanese, I'd be confused because I'm learning. That's the normal process. It's called the learning zone. But people don't like to get out of their comfort zone, and particularly with golf, if they don't see an instant result, they just run for the door at any moment. So they'll go back, I want to change, but they don't have the discipline. It's just, well, it wasn't great, but that's okay. And they just fall back into their old habits. So, I say the most important thing, get your hands on the golf club properly. Get one of those training grips with the molded grips, and you'll learn so much just from that. When I get kids, that's all I want to see. I just want to see them put their hands on the club properly, and they'll start to figure out the rest pretty fast.
100%. I forgot what I had something good. And I'm still there, a little bit down. Damn, it was touching on that topic. It was such a good one.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I've got it. Would you say there's such a thing as over practice when it comes to golf?
Yes. People get on the range. Nowadays, the range, when you get a range, there's unlimited golf balls. Not a good idea, because it's a bit like going into a restaurant to eat as much as you can for our standard price. And we get a bit silly. We just hit balls. Then when you start losing your concentration, then there's what I call over practice. And then people say, they love to think, I'm hitting 300 balls a day. Yeah, but 250 of them you weren't even concentrating on the top. If your practice must relate to the golf course. If not, what's the point? I mean, I get out in the golf range. Where are you aiming? Don't know. What's your routine? Oh, I'm just hitting a few balls. And then they stand up in the first tee and they go, where's the flag? And I go, who cares?
Yeah.
It's not related to what you're doing. I've seen the top players, some of them, particularly in the past, Nick Faldo, and he'd stand up before a round and he would go through the bag. He'd start off his practice with a driver. He'd hit a driver, he'd change, then he'd go to an iron, then he'd hit another driver, then he'd hit another iron, and he was mentally playing the golf course in his mind before he actually started, because he knew every club he was going to hit.
Yeah.
So that was pre-shot routine. And there's a difference between warm-up and practicing. If you're playing golf in the morning and you're going out to play, it's a warm-up. Just hit a few balls with each club to get the feel, finishing with a bunker shot and a couple of putts and you're good to go. Yeah. Practice you do after a round. In a different moment, but the practice must relate,
to what's going
to happen, as opposed to just,
Look, I agree with that
practice
completely.
Smart.
And going back to my, younger days when I was starting out and everything, I used to practice with a lot of good players, because obviously you want to play with people better than you in order to get better yourself. And I'll never forget this. I was working on my swing or something, and I was hitting the ball terribly. It was going all over the show. And the guy said to me, "Listen, are you aiming anywhere?" And I said, "No, I'm just trying to fix my swing." He's like, "You're getting upset because of the outcome of the ball, but you don't have a specific target in mind." And then I thought to myself, "Yeah, well," he's like, "So you might be hitting a good shot because the ball's going to go wherever you're aiming, you know?"
Exactly.
And when I started picking that flag, I started picking a specific point on a flag, but I got very detailed with it. It was a checkered flag, and I picked one little block out of that checkered flag. So, aim small, miss small. And all of a sudden, the swing started feeling smooth, started feeling less rushed and less mechanical, and I was starting to hit the ball toward the target. So, how important is it, instead of just getting up there and hitting balls aimlessly, picking a target on the range or on the course, for instance? Because a lot of people just stand up and hit.
It's massive because your brain will always try to hit the ball. The body will always try and hit the ball where the brain thinks you need to go. So I get people aiming 40 yards right. So then they come over the top trying to hit at a flag where they think they're aiming at. So they're developing really bad faults because they're trying to override the fact that the body's aiming one way, but you think you're hitting at another target, so you develop really bad habits. That's why we go back to the alignment sticks that all the players use, because once you're aligned correctly, then you've got. That's why they call when they're playing, guys are playing really well. He's got the swing on rails, literally on a rail, because they're hitting it so, like we call it a frozen rope, just so straight, and that comes from always practicing with a system, as in parallel and perpendicular. Because you're hitting at a target which may be 250 yards away with a small golf ball, and the top players, particularly because they're swinging the club so fast that a minor issue can go. The face open 1-2 degrees is 20-30 yards off target.
100%. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I just think it's vital in building up to the game, instead of just hitting balls for the sake of hitting balls. Is just picking a spot, getting the basics done, and try and hit it to that spot, because you're going to swing toward your like you said, subconsciously your brain is knowing where you want to go, and the body will try and get it there.
Exactly.
So I think it's really, really vital. What drills would you consider to be the best in order to get there? We're talking about focus and everything. I remember years ago when Jason Day was at the top of his game, and I don't know why this came to mind now, but we're talking about hitting 300, 400 balls around, or in a practice session. There was a guy who was a member of Jason Day's club, and he went out and he was watching Jason Day just hit balls, and before every single shot, he did that visualization where he stands behind the ball, closes his eyes. For 400 shots, he did the exact same movement. So now we're talking about concentration. That's concentration on another level.
Well, that goes back to the golf course. I mean, it has to relate to what you're going to do on the golf course. It's like practicing straight putts. You never get a straight putt.
Yeah.
And practicing, most importantly, the major thing, practicing with under pressure. Playing golf and playing golf under pressure are two different sports. How many times do you get the guy out and he says, "Oh, I'm playing great in the range, and I just go out in the golf course with my mates and it's a disaster," because there's pressure. Pressure is the fact that you're just playing with someone. Pressure. So if you don't practice under pressure, you can't play under pressure. So just going back to the putting green, 4 corners, 4 golf balls in the hole, you have to get 4 in, or you start again. That builds pressure and structure to your game, and then you develop it out. Can I get up and down in 2? Not hitting 25 pitches in a row, hitting a pitch and then going up with your putter and holding it, because that's what you do on the golf course. So it's much more course related, because at the end of the day, nobody really wants to stay on the practice ground. We all want to go on the golf course. So unless you make the practice relative, well, there isn't. Of course you're not improving, because what are you practicing?
100%. Last question I have for you is, what makes this game so special? Why did you fall in love with it? Why have you made a career out of it?
Because it's up to you in the golf ball. It's such a challenge of discipline, and it mirrors life. Just when you think you've got it, you hit a speed bump, and then just when you think it's not going to work, then things change in a whim. Every single hole is different, and every single day is different, just like in life. And it's a great, you can play for so many reasons. You can play on your own, you can play with 4 people, you can play competition, you can play for a walk, you can play with your kids. No, never 2 days the same. And you can travel. It's a great network builder or social game. You meet so many people from all different social backgrounds, and it's all about the golf ball. And because it's difficult, that's the attraction, because anyone or everyone does now and again hit one brilliant shot, just like a top professional, and that's what keeps them going.
Yeah, that's
And
what keeps them coming back.
That keeps you coming back every time, and that is why it's so addictive. Because if it was easy, it would be boring. People keep to me, "Oh, I want to hit it perfect." Perfection is boring. If you stood up on the hole and hit the ball down the middle, 250 yards, and the second ball went straight in the hole, and you did that for 18 holes, you would never play again. So if we go to the other extreme.
I don't know. That's a matter of opinion, Martin. I think I'll play every
No,
bloody
it
tournament I
would just
can.
be it'd be like standing in front of a dartboard, bullseye. You know, what's the object? Because of it's the total flip side. It's an obstacle course.
Yeah.
The objective of the game is the person who makes the least mistakes wins. That's why the golf course is built with water, with sand, with everything that's undulating, and the hole is tiny. That's the whole idea of the game. So the perfectionist always struggles in the game because perfection doesn't exist.
100%. 100%. I mean, it just challenges you. As life challenges you, so does the course. And we try and find ways. Look, you're never going to shoot the perfect round, as you said.
Doesn't
But
exist.
we're always out there striving to be better, as you do in life, you know. So, yeah, I think it's a great game, and it's a great way to build yourself up, learn from your mistakes,
Yeah.
and move on. Also, I think the biggest thing in golf is forgetting the bad shots. You know,
Exactly.
you need to have a memory like a goldfish, and I think one of the beautiful things is I've tried to implement that into my life. You know, it took me a long time to forget the bad shots on the golf course, but once I stopped, you know, focusing on the shot thereafter, I ended up off the round well. Instead, before it was focusing on the bad shots, and then the whole round would be ruined. And the earlier you start focusing on it, the worse the round's going to be. So, you know, now I can start with double bogey, and I'll still shoot a decent round because I've forgotten about those shots, you know. It was just me warming up or something like that. And I've implemented that into certain life aspects, and, you know, you tend to get over things a lot better, and it doesn't impact how you feel throughout. So, you know, it's a brilliant game.
It's like Rory McIlroy on the Masters, the first hole in the last round. He shoots double bogey in the first hole, and they said, "You think he'll react and he'll be nervous?" He says, "No, I was good with that because now I got away, and now I could get into the game because I was too far away, detached."
Yeah.
So it's a mindset. It's how you look. It's the glass half full, half empty.
100%.
You know.
No, it's a
Plus,
fantastic game.
you know, as long as your expectations match your input, which most people's expectations are too high,
Yeah.
and their input's pretty low. So, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, I think the best bit of advice that was given to me, especially in golf, was you can't control the outcome. Focus on what you can control, which is the very next shot.
Exactly.
So I think that's the most important key takeaway. Okay, Martin, thanks again for joining us today.
Pleasure.
To our audience, if you've got any comments or questions, please put it in the comments below, and give us a like if you enjoyed the content.